Part 22. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 211. 210 First Generation Experimenter. Seeing Lin Huo's expression, Chen Yuyan also became serious. Can the experimenters in the gold group fight against an army? He suddenly thought that Wang Jinsong once told him that one by one of their 12 super fighters had once killed over 2 GDI gold generals. What are the Golden General and the head of the Golden Army? He asked. It wasn't like this originally, it was just called the General and the head of the Legion. Because after both GDI and Nod realized the power of the experimenters, they were also trying their best to win over the experimenters. Even some experimenters just came to this world. As long as you show your identity to the authorities, you can get good treatment, Lin Huo said. Chen Yuyan could also imagine the situation at that time. Both parties must be frantically looking for an existence like the experimenter who has supernatural power and can connect to other worlds. With their strength, it is naturally not difficult to find all such experimenters one by one. And at this time, for these experimenters, there are only two possibilities: obedience, or death. Even if it reached the level of the gold group, Chen Yuyan thought it was impossible to compete with these two behemoths. Lin Huo said again, a total of 40 experimenters in the gold group appeared before and after the last war. These 40 people were named Legion commanders and generals by Nod and GDI, and the second-level silver group experimenters those who have been awarded the title of regimental commander and major general. In fact, the treatment is similar, and they are regarded as the top in the army. But later, in order to distinguish it from other Legion chiefs and generals, and with the word of mouth of some experimenters, the sayings of the Gold Legion Chief, the Silver Legion Chief, the Gold General, and the Silver Major General spread. What happened to the experimenters in the Golden Group? Chen Yuyan asked. The Gold Group experimenters who were born in the first generation of experimenters basically died. Because in that war, no one was spared. GDI has a Golden General, and Nod also has a Golden Army leader. The two sides are evenly matched. From the information that can be found, it can be known that Nod has recorded a total of 17 leaders of the Golden Army, 15 were killed in battle, and 2 were missing. GDI has recorded a total of 21 Golden Admirals, 13 were killed in battle and 2 are missing. Moreover, the 6 gold generals who survived from GDI were basically promoted to the gold group in the later period of the war, and their strength is not the same as that of the first generation of experimenters. Lin Huo said. Chen Yuyan frowned and said, I really want to ask, you have been emphasizing the first generation of experimenters, what is the difference between them? This is just a rumor, that is to say, the first batch of experimenters thrown into this world by the system, in order to allow them to establish an influence in this world faster enough to affect the plot. The people chosen are all from their original. There are all kinds of outstanding people in the world. And after time travel, these people more or less have innate abilities. But these are all untestable. Except for those experimenters who died in the corner without being well known, the first generation of experimenters only had the missing 4 gold group powerhouses, and they might all be dead too. Lin Huo said with some emotion. He glanced at Chen Yuyan and said, so you know why I concealed my identity as an experimenter? Perhaps in the eyes of many people, directly joining GDI and Nod will have good development prospects, but I don't think so. What do you think? Chen Yuyan asked. Lin Huo spread out a hand and said, let me tell you this, have you read the catalogue of forbidden books of magic? The Leave 5 superpowers in it are so awesome, but in reality? For Academy City it is only the existence of high-level experimental products, and they will never be able to hold real power in Academy City. Seeing Chen Yuyan's bewildered expression, he rubbed his forehead and said, haven't you seen it? Well, let me give you an example that is easier to understand. Counting from Han Xian to Yu Fei and Suda, such a super general with extraordinary ability, which one can really grasp the power, and which one can die well? Unless. Unless what? Chen Yuyan knew it in his heart, but he still asked. Cao, Sima Yi, Chen Baxian, Zhao Guangyan, etc. Lin Huo sneered. Of course, everyone understands this truth, and the high-level executives of GDI and NOD naturally understand it too. So they will never really trust the experimenter, and will they treat it like a knife. Chen Yuyan looked at the ceiling thoughtfully. He maintained this movement and asked, which world are you bound to? I went to the world of Baldur's Gate. When I went there, the system task I received was to fight against the blind beeps. I was lucky. Most of the experimenters who went with me died in the end. There were only 3 people who chose to bind this world. After that, I joined a mage organization, and my master was Edwin. Forget it, I told you that you don't know me. Anyway, with the help of my teacher, I am very quickly find out the other 2 people and kill them. I have that world to myself. Lin Huo said simply. He continued to ask, what about you? You should go to the world of Resident Evil, but why do you have things in the world of Red Alert like terrorist robots? Have you already gone to 2 worlds? Impossible, huh? And you even have the NS-4 robot, which is from Robot again. Chen Yuyan rubbed his chin and said, I really don't know how to tell you about this problem. In fact, I don't even know it myself. You can look at it with your own eyes first, and wait until our current construction work is almost the same. After that, I should be able to clear my mind. You still don't believe me? Lin Huo frowned. No, I actually trust you very much, but I just don't know how to say it. Are there any aliens in the world of Command and Conquer? Chen Yuyan asked, changing the subject. Yes, Skrin. Lin Huo replied without hesitation, they smashed the Tiberium mine on the Earth, and one of their fleets is now sleeping in the orbit of Pluto, and it may come at any time Earth. Why are you asking this all of a sudden? What is the architectural style of this alien? Chen Yuyan continued to ask. Like insects, if the human style is structural mechanics, then the Skrin style is biomechanics, or insect mechanics. Let's go, I'll show you something. Yi, let's go. Chen Yuyan said, patting the head of Yi who was eating a plate of fruit intently. By the way, what happened to your daughter? One of my chosen ones actually told me that she learned to use magic. Lin Huo asked. There are so many things that I want to know myself. Chen Yuyan sighed, went out, jumped on the Hummer Jeep, started the engine and said to Lin Huo, let's go. Seeing is believing. An hour later, Lin Huo had arrived in front of the alien building in the basement of Nuwa Base. His mouth was wide open, and he stared at the spherical building in a daze, unable to speak for a long time. Is this the architectural style of the Sijin people? Chen Yuyan asked. Undoubtedly. Yes. Lin Huo said with certainty, why do you have a Skrin building? What exactly is this building for? The Skrin people? Could it be that? Our so-called S project is a project to study the remains of the Skrin people. Wang Jinsong came out from the side and said in surprise. There are only 2 changes today, there are so many things at work, I have to slow down. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 212. 211 The points are urgent. Seeing Wang Jinsong, Lin Huo asked strangely, who is he? He was a researcher of Yan State in the past. At that time, Yan State had a secret project called Project S. Now it seems that this S should be Skrin. Are you from Sijin? Chen Yuyan gave a brief introduction, and then fell into deep thought. Are you, the Forsaken? Lin Huo looked at Wang Jinsong and asked. Wang Jinsong's face changed, and then he pretended to be calm and said, you think too much, how can there be Forsaken here? Lin Huo said indifferently, you don't need to panic too much. Regarding the Forsaken, my position is the same as that of Chen Yuyan neutral. It's just that I have some special means to detect that you are different. You are the warlord of Iron Hammer Town, and you also reject the Forsaken. Wang Jinsong said. I can accept you, but it doesn't mean that other people can accept it. Moreover, refusing to enter the city for the Forgotten is also for public health considerations. Lin Huo said. Wang Jinsong snorted coldly, the Forsaken will not spread Tiberium. But the vast majority of people don't think so. After Lin Huo finished speaking, he added, but you can rest assured, except me, no one should be able to tell your identity at a glance. He turned to Chen Yuyan again and said, so you are able to do so many unimaginable things because of the existence of the laboratory of Yan Kingdom's secret project? The technology of Xijin people? Probably. Chen Yuyan replied, then changed the subject and asked, how much do you know about the plot of Resident Evil? Not a lot. What's your situation over there? Lin Huo adjusted his glasses confidently. System, can I take Yi to other worlds? Chen Yuyan asked in his mind. If the other party fully agrees and absolutely obeys you, you can choose to bind it as an exclusive follower, and the exclusive follower can travel with the experimenter through different time and space. Binding an exclusive follower requires a certain amount of reward points, which are related to the character's influence on the world plot and personal ability. The number of exclusive followers that each experimenter can bind is unlimited, but every time an exclusive follower is added, the reward points spent will be multiplied by 2. Then I will bind Yi as my exclusive follower. Chen Yuyan said. Yi, the influence coefficient of the world plot is 0.02%, which has almost no influence. The personal ability coefficient is 800%, so you need to spend 16,000 points to bind Yi. Now your remaining reward points are 6,250 points, which cannot be paid. There were 6,050 points left from the last time, and this time it took about 5 days, an increase of 200 points. So is it 6,250 points? This is just enough for a Mantissa. Chen Yuyan was discouraged immediately, and originally planned to take Yi to the world of Resident Evil to see the world. Now it seems that this plan can only fail. Moreover, the remaining points are really starting to run out now. I don't know why the 2 system tasks have not been completed yet, so I can only increase the power rating of the Resident Evil world as soon as possible. Maybe the reward points earned every day will be higher. System, I will pay 1,500 points to go to the world of Resident Evil for 5 days. Chen Yuyan said, the only benefit now is to go to Resident Evil after killing the 2 experimenters Jean Genbo and Calvin Martins. The cost dropped to 300 points per day. Coming to the world of Resident Evil, Chen Yuyan was still in the Atlantic Research Institute where he left last time. During the past few days, the other 2 experimenters, Tomoko Kora and Wolman Schindler, also took actions, so the time here is still passing. It seems that those 2 are also working very hard, in order to monopolize this world. You are finally here. A cold voice appeared from behind. Chen Yuyan turned around. Who is this petite girl with 4 eyes? I saw that she was wearing a white coat, but it was not buttoned up. You can see the short-sleeved t-shirt and casual jeans under the gown, and her exquisite figure is also outlined. During this period of time, because the data and samples of the Ne beta parasite were handed over by Murphy's, she has been focusing on research in this area. Therefore, her short hair has also grown a little longer, and it has covered her ears, making her even more girlish. There is no way, although Chen Yuyan knows that Ziyan is 26 years old, but her innocence hidden under the indifference and her petite figure make it difficult to equate her with a mature woman. A smile appeared on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth, and he took a step forward to wrap his arms around the 4 eyes. What? Missed me? Now we don't have any samples of Ne beta parasites here, can't you make them directly? Give me a few. 4 eyes said coldly, and finally squinted at him and said, besides, still a little bit. Ha ha. How dare you say that? It looks like your iceberg is going to be melted by me. Chen Yuyan laughed, hugged her eyes even tighter, and was about to close her mouth. Four eyes rolled at him. I just finished researching the nemesis parasite in the laboratory, and there may be remnants of the T virus on my body. Are you sure you want to do this? Chen Yuyan pretended to think for a while, then suddenly bent down and printed it hard, and then whispered in the ear of the four eyes, "It's okay, I'm not afraid of the T virus." 2 hours later, Chen Yuyan came out of the dormitory area refreshed, and reluctantly spent 400 points to build 5 culture tanks for any beta parasites, and spent 200 points to make 5 parasites. The four eyes are also satisfied in various senses, both physically and psychologically, and are full of energy to invest in research again. Now there are many more people in the Atlantic Research Institute. About 30 to 40 captives captured alive in the Umbrella Company's attack were left here to do odd jobs. Anyway, there are protector robot patrols and Hunter Alpha secretly. Protection, they don't even dare to fart. The 3 researchers recruited by Murphy's also used their respective relationships to recruit some students to help them undertake some simple research work. At present, there are almost 60 to 70 people here, which is quite lively. Chen Yuyan came all the way to Murphy's office. This office is very spacious and decorated in an extremely luxurious European classical style. Now Murphy's is sitting on the sofa in the office, enjoying the red wine comfortably. "Ah, Boss Yan, you are here. Are you going to take me to your world again and build a beautiful new world together?" Murphy's was obviously in a good mood, and got up to pour Chen Yuyan a glass of wine. "Why? Life here is obviously much better than that world, right? Why do you seem to yearn for that?" Chen Yuyan asked. "These? Well, no, Murphy's shook his head. "Everything here is beautiful, but it's just an appearance. In this world, there is too much darkness and decay, but here I don't the ability to sweep away these disgusting things. So, I don't like this place. Haha." Chen Yuyan couldn't help but laugh. He received the wine glass that Murphy's handed over, and said, "Well, I'm asking you about someone." "Ask who?" "Tell me." "Alexia Ashford. Thanks to Silent 11 for the reward of 1000 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 213. 212 New Information. Hearing this name, Murphy's frowned. "Why did you suddenly ask her? She should have died more than 10 years ago. Tell me." Murphy's took a sip of wine gracefully, shook the crystal wine glass, and said slowly, "This starts with the Ashford family. This family is actually quite unlucky." He paused, recalling the past, and then continued, "As you know, Umbrella was founded by 3 people. Dr. Spencer E. Oswell, Dr. James Marcus, and Dr. Yes, that's Edward Ashford. But in fact, among the 3 of them, Spencer and Marcus only took shares in the form of technology. At the beginning of the company's establishment, Edward Ashford contributed the most in terms of funds. If this development continues, Umbrella should be dominated by Edward Ashford. But in the initial stage of the research on the ancestor virus, it was not very smooth. Neither Spencer nor James could stabilize the virus and become a reliable biological weapon. Seeing such a situation, Edward Ashford gradually lost interest, and he was not so concerned about the company. This gave Spencer more opportunities to take control of the company. Speaking of this, Murphy's gradually became excited, and his hand holding the wine glass began to tremble slightly. "Spencer is an ignorant conspirator. When Mr. Marcus was working on developing the T virus, he was secretly flattering Edward, and Edward, who was gradually disappointed with the company's situation, handed over many affairs to Spencer, allowing him to control most of the company's power without saying a word. Later, Edward Ashford died in 1971. The heir to the Ashford family, Alexander Ashford, is a dude, a fool. Although he obtained a doctorate very early, he knew nothing about the company's operation and management. As other industries in other fields went bankrupt, the Ashford family gradually declined. Chen Yuyan was non-committal, just listening to Murphy's memories. He was promoted by James Marcus before, so naturally he hated Spencer very much. Murphy's went on to say, however, the umbrella company was thriving at this time. Mr. Marcus fused the leech and the progenitor virus, and finally made the research on the T virus successful. Alexander Ashford saw this, and the family's last umbrella's power is redirected back to umbrella, but a fool is a fool, and he's still messed up. But at this time, maybe God favored him. In 1971, the same year Edward died, his wife gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The boy was named Alfred Ashford and the girl was named Alexia Ashford. These two people are geniuses. I really don't know how this idiot Alexander gave birth to such excellent offspring. How talented are they? Chen Yuyan asked. Alfred has an extraordinary talent in business management, but Alexia is the truly terrifying one. In 1981, she graduated from the University of Cambridge at the age of 10, and her grades in various subjects all A+. This grade crushed a large group of 20-year-old geniuses in the school who boasted of being extraordinary. Afterwards, Alexia joined Umbrella Company, and the project she was in charge of soon had a breakthrough. A month later, even the mentor assigned to her by the company dared not say a word about her research. At that time, William Birkin, the most outstanding genius researcher in the company, would be furious even hearing Alexia's name. After Murphy's finished speaking, he drank the last bit of red wine, sighed regretfully and said, "Unfortunately, 2 years later, in 1983, Alexander died of an experimental accident. Not long after that, Alexia was also studying. There was a sudden experiment accident during a new type of virus, and he died. The last hope of the Ashford family was completely cut off." "What's her personality like?" Chen Yuyan asked again. "I was still very young at that time, but I did meet her once. Although she was just a kid, she was as proud as a peacock. She didn't lie to anyone. Working with her, there is only one word: obey." "Nothing else," replied Murphy's. Chen Yuyan nodded and continued to ask, "Do you know what H.C.F is?" "I don't know." Murphy's answered very simply. "Where's the Greyhound organization?" "Why are you asking them?" "This is a group of criminals. The leader is an old man named Jack Norman. The mercenary I was looking for was found through him." Murphy said and thought for a while, "Speaking of which, last time all the more than 100 mercenaries I found were killed by you, and it is estimated that the Greyhound organization wants to settle accounts with me now. Just as you asked them, I want you to help me kill Jack Norman." "Okay, I will take care of it. I will notify you to cooperate when the time comes." After speaking, Chen Yuyan stood up and walked out, and at the same time connected the communication of all wolf pack teams and said, "Assemble immediately, I have very important things to say." 12 hours later, the wolf pack team that came back from all over the world gathered at the Atlantic Research Institute, and Chen Yuyan brought Murphy's over to have a meeting and study together. "I got very important information," Chen Yuyan said seriously. "First of all, it is about the mysterious organization that is now dealing with Umbrella Corporation. This organization is called HCF. They are very mysterious and low-key, and they are composed of countless entities. I'm sure one of them is preparing to take over the Umbrella property." "One of the forces?" the Ghost asked. "Tricell. Sanley and Company." Chen Yuyan said, "He got a lot of plot information in the world of Resident Evil from Lin Huo, and now he can finally enjoy the thrill of knowing the plot in advance and being a prophet." Note 1. I know this company. It is a company engaged in pollution prevention and environmental protection. Sanley and Company is responsible for the cleanup of nuclear radiation and residual viruses in Raccoon City. Ghost said, if they are a member of H.C.F., then there is no doubt that this organization is inextricably linked to the US government. Chun Yuyan nodded, that's right, and now the United States has secretly established an organization, the Federal Coalition Against Biochemical Terrorism, FBC. The leader is Morgan, and they should also be part of HCF No 2. Then what are you going to do? If this H.C.F. really has such great power, we are by no means their opponents. Looper said solemnly. Why do we want to be an open enemy to H.C.F.? Chunyuyan asked with a smile. Note 1, H.C.F. belongs to the part of Capcom that has been eating books for a while. It appeared in Resident Evil 3, and Wesker worked for them. But later it became a triple, which Capcom did not explain. However, in Resident Evil 7, the clues of H.C.F. appeared again, so if a reasonable inference is made, then the statement that the triplet is part of H.C.F. is more reasonable. Note 2, it is also reasonable to speculate that in Resident Evil, Revelation, Jessica Shillaward was a member of the FBC, but later turned into a spy working for the Triple Company. It is impossible to say that the two are not connected. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 214. 213 Invasion of Antarctica, Part 1. What are you going to do? Rupier asked. Since H.C.F. intends to eliminate Umbrella Company, then I will help them. Chun Yuyan said with a smile, spreading his hands. How to help? Now there are only two Umbrella's last strongholds, the Antarctic Research Institute and the Caucasus headquarters. According to the information I got from the Red Queen, the Caucasus headquarters is heavily guarded and guarded by the most advanced BOW we want to attack. It's very difficult. Chunyuyan said, so, let H.C.F. chew on this hard bone. Will they pass obediently? Looper frowned. Hank, last time you scouted the battle in Antarctica, what was the result? Chunyuyan turned to Hank. Hank said seriously, the climate and environment on the Antarctic side is too extreme, so I didn't go deep. But I can be sure that the attacking party failed. Because they were able to leave the Antarctic with only one helicopter, and they didn't carry anything. So the plot has changed here. According to Lin Huo, Wesker finally succeeded and destroyed the Antarctic Research Institute. But now Hank told him that the attackers had failed. Chun Yuyan said, then we have two plans. A, if the Antarctic Research Institute still exists, then we will capture this research institute and let the H.C.F. people go to nothing. If they want to get the legacy of Umbrella Corporation, they have to go to the Caucasus is head-to-head. B, if the Antarctic Research Institute has been destroyed, then we will closely monitor Albert Wesker, and then wait for him to go to the Caucasus to fish in troubled waters. Why are you spying on Wesker? Because if H.C.F. wants to deal with Umbrella Corporation, the best choice is to let Wesker do it, because after all, he has worked for Umbrella Corporation for so many years. Chun Yuyan said. Looper nodded and said, in this case, our next goal is Antarctica. Ha 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 ha. We haven't acted together for a long time. Those guys have forgotten how powerful our wolves are? Ha 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 ha. Beltway squeezed his fists to the ground, laughing loudly up. A day later, southern Chile, Punta Arenas. A large cargo ship left the port and headed towards Antarctica. After 4 hours of sailing, the fishing boat entered the Antarctic Circle. The Wolfpack team had already put on their respective combat equipment, and put on a thick white down jacket, which looked a little bloated, and Beltway looked like a polar bear. They kept the crew in the cabin and were not allowed to come out, and then came to the empty flight deck at the rear of the cargo ship. Ready? Looper asked. As always, the combat command is held by Looper. During the battle, even Chunyuan could not go against her decision. Ready? Everyone nodded. Get the helicopter out, Looper said to Chunyuan. Chunyuan nodded. After the cargo ship went to sea, he had already spent 300 points to let the Infinite Base build a Me-24 Hind gunship, and now the construction is almost complete. With a thought in his mind, a blue light curtain flashed in front of his eyes, and a large armed helicopter nearly 20 meters long and 6.5 meters high appeared on the flight deck, and it was already covered in white polar paint. Me-24 Hind, this armed helicopter can carry 8 people, just enough to hold all the wolf pack squad. And this gunship is not bad at all. After this battle, it is time to hand it over to Four Eyes to conduct research on the Ne-beta parasite. I believe that a parasite that can fly the Me-24 will be developed soon. Phantom had previously served in the GRU, the intelligence service of the former Soviet Union, so he would naturally fly a Me-24. Hank has also driven an armed helicopter. Although he has never driven a Me-24, if he is in charge of the weapons system and the Ghost is in charge of driving, the problem is not too big. The other 6 people and Murphy just sat in the cabin, and the Ghost started the helicopter and flew towards Alexander Island in Antarctica. In the cabin, Hank spread out a map of Alexandria Island, and began to draw lines on it with compasses and rulers, and looked out the window from time to compare the terrain. Finally, he drew a circle on the map and said, based on where I saw the intruder's helicopter appear, the Antarctic base should be nearby. After speaking, he turned on the communication and told the Ghost the coordinates. The helicopter flew for more than half an hour, and the Ghost said in the communication, I have seen the target, and the entrance of the target seems to be damaged, so the camouflage effect is not so good. Land down, ready to fight? Said Rupier, donning the gas mask. Everyone else put on their gas masks and got ready as the helicopter began to descend. They opened the door of the cabin, and the strong wind mixed with large snowflakes poured straight into it, and the rope was lowered, and the members of the wolf pack team descended to the ground one by one. Hank and Ghost then landed the helicopter on a landing pad outside the base and acted alone. One of them is a sniper, and the other is the god of Reaper who always kills his teammates, and it is just right to act alone. Chunyuan and the others came to the outskirts of the base, and they found dozens of charred corpses scattered here and there, and next to the corpses were weapons that had been burned to the point of distortion. Victor squatted down and picked up a weapon, looked at it and said, it's an M4 assault rifle. These people are definitely connected with the US military. But Chunyuan was checking the surrounding environment, and found that there were large areas of burn marks in many places here. If it was before, he naturally didn't know what was going on, but now, after chatting with Lin Huo about the plot of Resident Evil, he understood that these burn marks were made by Alexia. Fast. The movement of the helicopter is too loud, the other party must be alert. Divide into 2 groups and advance. If you encounter a target, don't fight hard, delay the time and wait for support. Looper said loudly, and everyone looked at each other and immediately divided into left and right 2 groups, fast forward. The group of Chunyuan, Four Eyes, Beltway, and Murphys entered from the left side of the base, and the group of Looper, Bertha, and Victor entered from the right side of the base. The interior of this base is very vast, but there is no one in sight, not even the staff. It's just that a lot of blood and bullet holes can be seen along the road. Obviously, there has been a very intense firefight here. So, where is the body? Having experienced so much, Chunyuan naturally knew it in his heart. Sure enough, there was a low growl, and a tattered zombie in light blue overalls turned around the wall and came over. Xian was just about to headshot the zombie, but Chunyuan grabbed her wrist and said, don't worry, the zombies here should all come from a mutation of the T-virus Veronica virus. Use the Ne-alpha parasite to see if it works. After encountering more enemies, there is no time to experiment. Four Eyes nodded, took out the injection gun, and shot the zombie. All I saw was that the zombie took 2 steps back first, then trembled violently all over its body, and then its body grew rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, even its clothes and skin were torn apart. While Chen Yuyan was still lamenting how the effect of the parasite was so good, he was dragged by Four Eyes to squat behind the railing next to him. I only heard the zombie roaring for a while, but couldn't find the target, so it turned around and rushed towards the place it came from. Ne-alpha parasites can't control the infected organisms created by the Veronica virus, but they will go berserk. Let's go. I'll take some blood samples in the past. After Four Eyes finished speaking, he stood up, picked up the injection gun and pointed at Run over there. Chen Yuyan hurriedly followed, but at this moment, he heard a series of chaotic low growls from the other side of the wall. They turned around the wall and saw the scene in front of them, their eyes widened all of a sudden. On the other side of the wall, hundreds of zombies gathered impressively. Thank you for the 100 starting point coins rewarded by the God of Science. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 215. 214 Invasion of Antarctica, 2. And at this moment, the zombie that had been berserk because of the Ne-alpha parasite just now was killing among the corpses. Although the zombies will not actively attack the same kind, they will subconsciously fight back when they are attacked. As soon as they see these hundreds of zombies, they will gradually surround them, and frantically bite the berserk zombie. So many zombies! Murphy's exclaimed when he saw this scene. It's now. Hit! Chen Yuyan shouted, and charged up with a gun to shoot at the corpses. Da-da-da-da-da-da. A large number of bullets are fired at supersonic speeds, and the sonic boom and excitation sound are mixed into a series of loud crackling sounds. I only saw that group of zombies being knocked down one by one like cutting wheat. If you look carefully, you can even find that the powerful kinetic energy attached to each bullet can shoot through the bodies of 2 or 3 zombies. What Chen Yuyan was holding in his hand was an M41, a one-pulse rifle. Using 10mm caliber caseless bullets, the magazine capacity is 100 rounds, and the initial velocity of the bullet is 2000 m/s. At the same time, Four Eyes and Beltway also took out an M41, a one-pulse rifle, and fired wildly. Only Murphy's didn't get this treatment. He was holding the FAMA's assault rifle that Rupier eliminated for him. Yahoo! Beltway yelled happily, pouring out the bullets in the gun completely. This 10mm caliber caseless ammunition is actually much smaller than the NATO standard SS-1095 5.56mm caliber rifle ammunition because it has no charge and no shell case, but its weight is slightly heavier, reaching 16 g. In this way, the weight of each 100-round magazine reaches about 1.7 kilograms, which is very heavy. The material used in the M41, a one-pulse rifle, is a mixture of lightweight high-strength plastic and ceramics. Although the overall size is larger than that of the FAMA's assault rifle, the weight is reduced by 1/3. But even so, combined with the supercapacity magazine, it is much heavier than ordinary assault rifles. But this little weight doesn't matter at all to the physical fitness of the Soldier King level of the Wolf Pack team, but the firepower increase it brings is a qualitative change. The current Wolf Pack team is wearing combat uniforms with electromagnetic bulletproof functions. This is the experimental product that Umbrella previously equipped Looper with. A set. Coupled with the M41, a one-pulse rifle, it can be said that they can take out anyone at random. As long as the tactics are proper, they can completely kill an entire infantry company. Da-da-da-da. The dense bullet rain almost killed hundreds of zombies in front of him in less than 10 seconds. Under the powerful power of the M41, a one-pulse rifle, it doesn't matter whether you get a headshot or not. The powerful kinetic energy of the bullet can easily tear zombies into pieces. You know, this is a weapon used to fight against aliens. The huge gunshots here quickly attracted zombies from other directions, and more than a dozen hunters came out of the base. However, the appearance of this kind of hunter is different from the hunter alpha in Qinyuan's hands. Their eyes are bigger and more prominent, the scales on their bodies are finer and denser, and their claws have become bigger and longer. Beltway took out 2 grenades, laughed wildly and said, "This is humming stuffed. Ha 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 ha." After speaking, he tore off the fuse tab and held the grenade in his hand for 2 seconds before slamming it. "Throw it out?" When Qinyuan and the others saw this, they hurried towards the back of the bunker without saying a word. Under his precise calculation, the grenade just flew to the chest of the group of hunters and exploded. Boom! Boom! There were 2 huge explosions, and the strong shockwave overturned all the surrounding zombies. The strong wind of the explosion even blew away the stones and some metal boxes on the ground. However, Beltway, relying on his battle suit equipped with anti-explosion pads, stood in the gust of explosion and laughed endlessly. After Qinyuan came out from behind the bunker, he saw that there were no living creatures standing there anymore. Before, the 3 of them harvested a large area with M4101, and then Beltway's added grenade blew up all the hunters and remaining zombies to the ground. The hunters closest to the explosion of the grenade even had only 2 legs left intact. This flurry of battles triggered the alarm at the base, some closed rooms opened, and more B.O.Ws came out. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. As Qinyuan rushed forward, he raised his pulse rifle and fired a burst, smashing a hunter into a pile of rotten flesh. No matter how tough the hunter's scales are, it is impossible to withstand the fire of a pulse rifle. Boom! 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 There was a sound of heavy footsteps, and only a few deformed monsters were seen walking over. Qinyuan looked over, but found that it was a monster with 4 or 5 human shapes. At first glance, it looked a bit like a tyrant, but the body variation was not as symmetrical as the tyrant, but basically concentrated on the right arm. The monster's right arm seemed almost as thick as its body, and it was drooping all the way to the ground, covered with blue mutated meridians, wriggling non-stop. After discovering Qinyuan, the monsters roared, raised their mutated right arm and swung it violently. I saw their right arm stretch to more than 10 meters in an instant, and they swept towards Qinyuan. Qinyuan's reflexes were exceptionally quick, he reversed and moved easily, dodging the arms of these monsters. At the same time, the M4101 pulse rifle in his hand fired at close range, and a burst of juice splashed, instantly breaking a monster's arm into 2 pieces. At this time, Four Eyes and Beltway also rushed up, shooting at those monsters. However, the size of these monsters is even bigger, and their body tissues are proliferating rapidly. They were not smashed into pieces by the pulse rifle like other B.O.Ws. Qinyuan looked at the display on the pulse rifle in his hand, and there were only a dozen or so bullets left in the magazine. He simply put his rifle back into his personal space, took out a combat dagger, and stabbed it fiercely into the extended arm of a monster. The door on the other side was suddenly knocked open, and dozens of zombies rushed over howling. Qinyuan took the dagger and slashed fiercely, once, twice. Cut off the monster's arm in a few strokes. Then, with a sudden kick on the ground, the whole person shot out in front of those monsters, and kicked the 2-meter-high monster into the wall with a kick. The M4101 pulse rifle appeared in his hand instantly, and he put the gun on the monster's head, da-da-da-da. More than a dozen bullets were all shot into the monster's head. The monster next to him also came over. Qinyuan dodged the attack of that terrifyingly thick arm, and swiped his legs shortly. With a click, the monster's legs were directly broken by his kick. The top-heavy monster suddenly fell to the ground. A trace of violence flashed in Qinyuan's eyes. He stepped forward, condescendingly aimed at the monster's head with a punch. Boom! The smelly mucus splashed out, and the monster was headshot by his punch. Thanks for the 10,000 starting point coins. That red, yellow, and blue are not black. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 216. 215 Invasion of Antarctica, Part 2. Chen Yuyan stood up, and he killed the remaining one-armed monsters cleanly. Looking back, the newly charged zombies and some hunters had also been killed by Four Eyes. The firepower of the M41A1 pulse rifle was indeed extremely powerful. No wonder the experimenter who held this assault rifle in Raccoon City, although he was just a wimp, almost survived to the end. This time their plan was to let Chen Yuyan and the others make a big noise in the base to attract the attention of the base insiders, and then Looper, Bertha, and Victor sneaked into the control center. Anyway, neither Beltway nor Chen Yuyan are players who sneak into combat. What? Don't let people find out? If I kill everyone, no one will see me? Ripping off the down jacket that had been soaked in a lot of stinky blood and throwing it away, Chen Yuyan continued to move forward with Four Eyes. Is this base really captured? I think those zombies should have been staff here before? Murphy's said, looking at the corpses of zombies everywhere. It's hard to say, if Alexia has been defeated, how could Wesker have nothing to gain? Chen Yuyan was also a little uncertain, and he replaced the M41A1 magazine. Anyway, there are more than 50 magazines in his personal space, and he can use them casually. Because of the plot that Forest Fire told him, the plot of the Antarctic base was originally because Claire Redfield sneaked into the Paris laboratory and was arrested. Then I was escorted to Nuckford Island, just in time for H.C.F to bomb that island, and then a series of blah blah plots, and finally went to Antarctica. Chen Yuyan on Nuckford Island knew it, after all, he was trained there when he first came to this world. But Chen Yuyan swears that he has been wandering around Raccoon City for so long, but he has never seen a beautiful woman named Claire. And the policeman named Leon and the U.B.C.S mercenary named Carlos have never seen it, but Jill and Rebecca have seen it. Moreover, the Raccoon City incident had just ended, and the U.S had already destroyed the Paris Institute to vent their anger. Even if Claire wanted to be arrested, she had nowhere to go. By the way, these unlucky guys won't die because of the plot change, right? On the streets of Kiev, a beautiful woman with a ponytail sneezed suddenly, and a burly man next to her turned around and said, "What's the matter, Claire? You don't catch a cold, do you?" Claire rubbed her nose, and said in a low voice, "It's okay, brother, suddenly my nose is a little raised." This is Looper. We have found and occupied the monitoring room. There are no living people here, but there are quite a few zombies. According to the plan, we avoided fighting and did not provoke them. Looper's voice came from the communication com. Chen Yuyan replied, "We killed a lot of zombies and B.O.Ws, which caused a lot of commotion, but no living people came out. However, these B.O.Ws were obviously released after someone heard the alarm. Someone must be there. Everything is controlled behind the scenes. Look at the surveillance." While he was talking, he suddenly heard Four Eyes yelling, "Be careful where you step." Chen Yuyan reacted instinctively and jumped to the side. Almost at the same time, the floor shattered, and a huge tentacle that looked a bit like a plant vine but also a bit like a snake came out and swept towards him. The strength of this huge tentacle is so great that even the walls are smashed to pieces wherever it passes. Xian and the others hurriedly backed away. Chen Yuyan rolled on the spot to avoid it. The tentacle slammed into a nearby room. With a crash, the wall was smashed, and there was another turmoil, and the laboratory was instantly plowed to the ground. Da-da-da-da-da. As Chen Yuyan got up from the ground, he picked up the pulse rifle and aimed it at the tentacles. The muzzle flashed continuously, and the 10mm caliber caseless bullet shot at the tentacles at lightning speed. Immediately, countless green slime sprayed out, and the tentacles twisted violently, preparing to escape from the hole just drilled out. Chen Yuyan was not willing to let it go. He retracted the pulse rifle instantly, stepped forward 2 steps and hugged the tentacles. Surprisingly, it does not have the fishy smell of other B.O.Ws, but just a fresh smell of tree sap. But he didn't care at all. After clasping the tentacles, he let out a loud shout and his muscles bulged. All the strength strengthened through the second level of muscle strength and muscle explosiveness burst out instantly. The tentacles struggled violently, and Chunyuan was dragged forward several meters, and his feet plowed 2 deep marks on the concrete floor. "Give it to me. Come down." Chunyuan roared angrily, and pulled hard with all his strength, and with a puff, green sap sprayed all over his body. And this tentacle was also torn from the place where it was shot just now, and broke into 2 pieces, and the rest disappeared into the ground. 4 Eyes hurried over, looking at Chunyuan with concern. "The juice on your body seems a bit like a plant." "Ah, you're welcome, I'm fine." Chunyuan waved his hand and said manlily. Who knew that 4 Eyes ignored him at all? She had already taken out a syringe gun, went to the broken tentacle and began to collect DNA samples in it, and said in her mouth, "This may be a brand new and plant mixed BOW. Hey! I was fighting such a big guy just now?" Chunyuan said angrily. But the petite girl still ignored him. Chunyuan squatted down and looked at the bottomless hole in the ground, frowned and said, "Is this the lair of this big monster? Beltway. Ha ha ha. Good." Beltway became excited, and he took out a large piece of dough-like thing from his backpack, and Chunyuan recognized it as C-4 explosives. Beltway skillfully stuffed the C-4 into a spherical metal shell, and said excitedly, "A little more. A little more. Ha 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 ha." He stuffed the shell almost to the brim, installed the detonator and remote detonator, and rolled the spherical bomb straight down the hole. There was a crashing sound, and the pothole was actually very deep. "Let's go, let's stand far away." Before Chunyuan finished speaking, he saw that Beltway had already pressed the remote control. "Ha ha ha ha. Blow me up." Beltway laughed loudly. Boom. A deafening explosion came from the ground, and Chunyuan suddenly felt that the ground seemed to turn into cotton, and he couldn't stand still at all. Moreover, a huge bulge instantly bulged up on the ground under his feet and began to crack rapidly, and the cracked area spread rapidly. Then this piece of bulge collapsed at a fast speed. It turned out to be a landslide. "Hum. You have too many humming bombs. Run." Chunyuan yelled, and he still grabbed 4 Eyes and led her to run away. Beltway didn't forget to lift Murphy's up, and followed Chunyuan's footsteps and ran all the way. 0. "What are you doing over there?" Looper asked angrily during the communication. But Chunyuan couldn't care less about answering. The cracks on the ground were getting bigger and bigger, and he couldn't get out of this range even with all his strength. In the end, only a loud bang was heard, and the surroundings were spinning. He only had time to wrap his 4 Eyes in his arms to protect them before falling down with countless gravels. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 217. 216 Warm up first. Cough, cough, cough. Chunyuan coughed violently. Dust was everywhere, and there was a strong smell of gunpowder smoke. He looked down at Ziyin, who was held in his arms, and found that she was not injured, so he was relieved. On the other hand, Beltway didn't care. The combat uniform on his body was covered with heavy explosion-proof padding, so it didn't matter if he rolled all the way down. But Murphy's was miserable, falling down with a bruised nose and swollen face. His beautiful face was covered with scratches, and the gorgeous classical aristocratic clothing on his body was also torn to pieces, looking like a beggar. "Ah! Me! What's wrong with me?" Murphy screamed. He frantically took out a mirror from his pocket, but the mirror had been broken and it was full of cracks, but it reflected his current state of distress. "My beautiful face, you." Murphy saw his appearance, and then looked at Chunyuan. He didn't catch his breath, and passed out as soon as he rolled his eyes. Beltway, put him on, Chunyuan originally wanted to say to put him on a sharp rock, maybe this thing is good, but after thinking about it, let it go, find a safe place, put it away. Beltway curled his lips, tch, sissy. He lifted Murphy's up and placed him behind a broken pillar. Murphy's, who was at least 1.8 meters tall, was in his hands. It's like lifting a chick. Chunyuan and Xian have already walked forward. This place is obviously also a part of the base, it should be a secret research institute located underground. This is a circular space that looks a bit like a patio. It does not occupy a large area, and it has been blown up quite a bit now. And that huge tentacle was lying in pieces in the middle, and there was a huge crater on the ground that was blown out by a C4 bomb. However, this tentacle was blown too badly, and there were broken rotten flesh and plant-like vines everywhere, and it was impossible to distinguish the original appearance. Are you still alive? That's right. A majestic female voice came. Chunyuan looked back, and found that the sound was coming from the monitor hanging on it. It should be that this kind of camera also has a sound amplification function. Who are you? Alexia. Chunyuan asked in a raised voice. You lowly people don't deserve to know my name. The female voice replied coldly. As soon as she finished speaking, Chunyuan already dodged to the side, only to hear a bang, and the place where he was standing just now was hit by a bullet. Almost at the same time, Four Eyes raised the M41, a one-pulse rifle, and fired. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Countless bullets covered a high place in an instant, hitting the concrete there so that smoke and dust billowed out. A muffled cry of pain came from behind. Whether it was Chunyuan, Four Eyes, or Beltway, after entering this strange place, they almost completed the judgment of the surrounding terrain immediately. What places are suitable for sniping, and where there may be ambushes, all fall into their eyes. When the female voice was speaking just now, Chunyuan had already seen a figure flash by over there. So he is not faster than the bullet, but he has dodged before the opponent shoots. The same is true for the Four Eyes. The moment the person just shot, he had already fired back. If it wasn't for that person hiding well, he would have been beaten into a sieve by now. But even so, he was still injured by the bullets from the pulse rifle through the concrete bunker. This is the strength of the top killer. Ha 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 ha. I've seen you a long time ago. Little chick. Beltway laughed wildly, took out a grenade in his hand, and pulled the ring with a ding. Just when he was about to throw a grenade to give the guy with the anti-cold gun a fatal blow, suddenly the collapsed wall next to him exploded. A tentacle that was exactly the same as before flew out and hit his chest heavily. Beltway was knocked several meters away with a bang, but his instincts were extremely quick, and he held the grenade tightly in his hand, and did not release the safety disc. He rolled on the ground twice and inserted the tab back. At this time, Chunyuan had already turned the muzzle of the gun to the tentacle and pulled the trigger. Da-da-da-da-da, all the 10mm caliber caseless bullets poured on the tentacle at close range. Four Eyes also turned to shoot, but then a laboratory on the other side suddenly exploded, and another tentacle swept over quickly. Four Eyes flipped back very nimbly to avoid the impact of the tentacle. Seeing the tentacle sweeping over again, she jumped up and grabbed a steel bar. At the same time, the other hand flipped over, holding the injection gun in his hand, and a puff shot hit the tentacle. Ha 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 ha. Do you think your low-level T-virus can affect them? Ha 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 ha. The female voice laughed. Sure enough, the high concentration of T-virus and NE-alpha parasites in the injection gun had no effect at all. The tentacle twisted for a while, the tip began to swell suddenly, and then split into a big mouth. The long-mouthed tentacle swooped down and bit off a chunk of concrete in one bite. However, the Four Eyes were not moved at all. Although she had been immersed in research during this time, she did not give up on her own training. She moved extremely quickly, dodging the tentacle's attack, and at the same time, the M4101 pulse rifle kept firing, scarring the tentacle. But the attack didn't end, only to see that the door of a room at the other end suddenly slid open to both sides, and there were 3 huge metal cans inside. Before anyone could guess, the 3 metal tanks were opened one after another, countless condensed mist billowed out, and then 3 huge figures walked out of them. With a height of more than 2 meters, a bald head, and abnormally developed muscles, he is a T-103 tyrant. Moreover, these 3 tyrants were not wearing the restrained clothes like the army code, and they were directly in a state of full liberation of mutation. As soon as they came out, they immediately locked onto their target, and those pair of eyes without any emotion fixed on Chen and the others. I saw that their hands immediately mutated and grew sharp claws. I'll deal with them. You can handle these tentacles. Chen left the sentence, and immediately rushed towards the 3 T-103 tyrants. Da-da-da-da-da. The pulse rifle in his hand fired wildly, knocking the tyrant in front back again and again. At the same time, he rushed 2 steps towards the side, and a tyrant had already punched him, punching a big hole in the wall with a bang. But Chen had already kicked on the wall with his strength, and then suddenly jumped high in another direction. All the remaining bullets in the M4101 pulse rifle hit the tyrant. A tiberium crystal was put into his mouth and chewed to pieces. All the movements were done in one go, and the other person was still in the air at this time. Boom! Chen landed suddenly, a green light flashed in his eyes, he glanced at the tyrant rushing towards him, raised his hand and punched him. Boom! A bang! Chen punch actually knocked the T-103 tyrant back a few steps. You! How is it possible? The female voice couldn't believe it when she saw this scene. Impossible, you will be able to experience it for yourself soon. Don't worry, let me warm up first. Chen said with a sinister smile, and then his feet exploded suddenly, and his whole body shot out like a bullet. Thank you Zion for the 200 reading points. Thank you for the 100 starting point currency rewarded by Chiao Gangzu for his poems. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 218. 217 Seriously. Isn't this brushing the boss? Boom. 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 Chen punched the tyrant's arm 3 times in a row. Under the huge force, it actually broke the tyrant's arm directly. All I could see was that its arms were bent strangely, and its muscles were still wriggling violently. It was obvious that under the action of the T-virus, the bones in its hands were rapidly repairing and mutating to become harder. But Chen naturally wouldn't give it this chance. He rushed forward, and when the T-103 tyrant opened its door, he directly punched it in the heart. Chen and the others, who were originally U.S.SS elite unit of the Umbrella Corporation, knew very early on that the tyrant's weakness was the heart from beginning to end. Because the tyrant series has always been mutated on the basis of humans, so just like the human body, the source of power is the blood and oxygen pumped by the heart. To maintain such a huge power of the tyrant, its heart is also abnormally huge, so much so that the heart of the 2 experimental models of the tyrant T-001 and T-002 directly broke through and exposed the skin. Although the problem of exposed heart is solved in the official T-103 tyrant, it does not mean that the part of its heart is not a weakness. On the contrary, for AB.O.W of the tyrant level, the head is not the most fatal weakness. Because even if they are headshot, they are no better than zombies with extremely rare T-virus in their bodies. The high concentration of T-virus in their bodies can ensure that they will mutate immediately, and then grow a new head quickly. Really? Chen punched the tyrant in the chest, and the tyrant staggered back a few steps. With Chen current muscle strength, the kinetic energy of a punch is comparable to a bullet, and the punch is still a blunt weapon damage. Bang bang bang. Several punches in a row, all hit the heart of this tyrant. The tyrants next to him also rushed over to help, but Chunyuan had already dodged away with their claws. The paw of the tyrant next to him left 3 deep scars on the body of the beaten tyrant. Compared with the final product tracker of the European division, the T-103 tyrant of the North American division is more stable and will not undergo uncontrollable mutations, but the disadvantage is slow and clumsy. 3 T-103 tyrants surrounded Chunyuan, but no matter how much they punched and kicked, they couldn't even touch Chunyuan's fur, let alone they couldn't kick at all. Chunyuan successively carried out the second-level muscle explosive strength strengthening and the second-level muscle strength strengthening, and when he did the primary strengthening before, the effect of his 2 strengthening is equivalent to 5 times for other experimenters. And the same is true for this second level of strengthening, which means that Chunyuan has already performed 2 or 3 times of strengthening that is equivalent to the effect of other experimenters. Muscle explosive strength is strengthened, in layman's terms, it is speed. Chunyuan's eyes froze, and he concentrated all his strength on his fist. At this moment, the muscles in his arm were compressed like a high-strength spring, and it was even bigger than usual. Boom. Punch. Fist. Ordinary people can't even see his movements, this extremely powerful blow hits the back of the tyrant. Puff-chi. The tyrant's chest muscles were instantly torn open by the powerful impact, and a large stream of blood gushed out like a high-pressure water gun. The tyrant suddenly fell to the ground like a puppet with broken strings and did not move. And in order to brew this blow, Chunyuan was also severely clawed by another tyrant. Even the combat uniform was torn. But he didn't care at all. With the help of tiberium crystals, the wound on his back began to heal quickly. And the T-virus that invaded the body was directly absorbed by tiberium, becoming a new force. Unexpectedly, the female voice in the loudspeaker could not even speak, and it was not known whether it was because of fear or surprise. Don't worry, it's your turn next. Chunyuan turned his head and raised his middle finger at the camera. At the same time, a tyrant punched him, but Chunyuan raised his hand to catch it without even looking back. At this time, another tyrant also rushed up from here, and Chunyuan touched the arm of this tyrant, and the 2 tyrants collided immediately. Taking advantage of this time, he quickly changed the magazine for the M4101 pulse rifle, and aimed at the 2 tyrants with a frenzied strafing. Under the powerful rain of bullets, the 2 tyrants were spattered with blood, and their bodies were severely damaged. After finishing 1 magazine, Chunyuan took a step forward, aimed at one of the tyrant's chests and punched it with all his strength. Puff-chi. The tyrant's chest was sunken directly by him, and his huge heart was directly smashed into a puddle of rotten flesh. At the same time, there was a violent explosion on the other side. Chunyuan turned his head, but saw that one of the 2 giant tentacles attacking them had been directly blown in 2 by the bomb made by Beltwhite, while the other tentacle had disappeared and seemed to have run away. The only remaining tyrant suddenly let out a terrible roar. All I saw was that its body began to swell visible to the naked eye, a large amount of mutated substances continued to proliferate and accumulate, and its claws became longer and longer. It is about to mutate twice and start going berserk. Beltway. Bring me a guy with fuel. Chunyuan said loudly after changing the magazine. Beltway immediately threw a grenade over without further ado. Chunyuan took the grenade and put it into his personal space. At the same time, the tyrant had already mutated, and his body swelled a lot. His muscles were like pieces of cast iron. It waved its claws towards him. Chunyuan stepped aside, and hugged the tyrant's arm. The tyrant frantically waved his arm to shake Chunyuan off, but he couldn't. He jumped onto the tyrant's shoulder, picked up the M4101 pulse rifle, and directly put the muzzle on the tyrant's back and fired wildly. Da-da-da-da-da-da. A large number of bullets hit the tyrant's back with blood and flesh spattered all over Chun Yuyan's body. Oh! The tyrant screamed loudly. But it wasn't over yet. Chun Yuyan threw away the pulse rifle, took out the grenade with fillers from his personal space, pulled the ring and stuffed it directly into the tyrant's wound. Following the tyrant's power, Chun Yuyan jumped back suddenly, skipped a distance of 5 or 6 meters, landed and rolled and hid behind a stone. Boom! There was a huge explosion. There seems to be a rain of blood in this underground laboratory. When the explosion subsided, Chun Yuyan walked out, only to see that the tyrant was standing on the spot with only the lower body left, and a black spine hanging from his body. Looking at the camera, Chun Yuyan said with a smile, "Okay, the warm-up is over. The little boss has already been killed. You big boss, when are you going to come and brush me up? Let's see what equipment can be dropped." There was indeed a silence in response to him. Chun Yuyan pouted and said, "Let's go, it's too smelly here, wash it in another place." Co-authoring in this Antarctic research institute surrounded by enemies, he directly regarded it as his own backyard. There was a soft click, and an automatic door opened at the end of the stairs behind him, only to see a girl in a purple classical dress with long golden hair, noble and elegant, like a blooming peony walking come. Beside her, there was a blond man who also wore European medieval aristocratic costumes, but this man was very embarrassed, and he used a sniper rifle as a crutch to support himself to move forward with difficulty. Obviously, he was the one who wanted the anti-cold gun just now. Chun Yuyan turned his head, with a grin on the corner of his mouth. "So, you are the big boss? Alexia Ashford. If you kill you, you will drop the reward Veronica virus, right?" For him, as long as he is an enemy, he never cares whether the opponent is male or female, old or young. However, the girl nodded without hesitation and said, "You want the Veronica virus? Okay, I will give you the database right away. I will also open the highest authority of the space for you. Anything you want, you can available." Chun Yuyan was stunned by this magical turning point. Wait a moment. This style of painting is wrong. I'm obviously preparing to brush the big boss. It's as if I was rushing into the MC with a good buff full of confidence, overcoming all obstacles and killing the first 9 bosses, and when I was about to overthrow the big screw to win a big victory, the big screw suddenly ran over to you with a pleasant face and said, "Hello. Ah dear, if you fancy something on me, just take it away, you're welcome." What's happening here? As the final boss, you should be more serious. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 219. 218 Invitation from Genius. Seeing this girl's appearance, Chun Yuyan's whole body turned into petrification. He rubbed his forehead and quickly waved his hands. "Wait a minute, let me stroke it. Are you Alexia Ashford?" "Yes, I am the second daughter of the Ashford family, Alexia Ashford." The girl raised the corner of her skirt and performed an ancient ceremony very elegantly. "Your family, the Ashford family, is one of the founders of the Umbrella Company." "That's right. And I have turned against Umbrella, and now I am attacking the Antarctic base, one of the company's last 2 bases." Chun Yuyan said seriously. "Yes." Alexia replied very readily. "And when I rushed in, you didn't hesitate to release a large number of B.O.Ws to attack. Right. And you should also have the strength to fight me?" "Yes. You just said that I don't deserve to know your name." "That was a misunderstanding." Chun Yuyan was extremely depressed, patted his forehead hard, and raised his voice and said loudly, "Then shouldn't you rush up and fight with me for 300 rounds screaming?" You have to be responsible to be a boss, okay? Let's talk about basic law at least. Alexia said lightly, I just woke up, and I don't know much about the boss you mentioned, but I will try to learn. Chen Yuyan became serious in an instant, and he asked in a deep voice, what do you want? An extremely proud smile appeared on the girl's face, and she said excitedly, combine with me. We will give birth to the best offspring, and then, we will rule the world together. Wait a minute, my sister. The man next to him with a sniper rifle was shocked and stopped loudly, do you want to marry him? With such a vulgar savage? Are you kidding me? The blasphemy of our family blood? You are wrong, my brother, Alfred. He is the best candidate for my partner. He is not afraid of the T-virus, has extraordinary wisdom, and can kill T-103 tyrants with bare hands. His physical strength is even stronger than that of a tyrant. Such a perfect person is the best husband-in-law of our Ashford family. Alexia said. No. I absolutely don't agree. Alexia, my sister, you are perfect. So powerful, so beautiful, so noble. Look at him again. Does he look like a nobleman? Alfred Reed pointed at Chen Yuyan and said loudly. Alexia's voice became cold, I don't think you understand the current situation of our family, brother. The decline of the Ashford family began with our stupid father, Alexander Ashford. Why is he? Because he is stupid, because he is incompetent, because he is weak. If you want the Ashford family to flourish and prosper from now on, then it is my greatest responsibility to give birth to the best offspring for the family. Alfred was still not reconciled, but your body is still young, and you still have more time to choose. With your beauty, your talents, and your nobility, there must be countless outstanding men kneeling beside you under the pomegranate skirt. No. Alexia said as he walked down the stairs, I couldn't understand more through the screen just now, but now that he is standing in front of me, I can really feel the great power contained in his body. Don't wait any longer, he is the perfect husband-in-law I'm looking for. While speaking, she came to Chen Yuyan, raised her head slightly, looked at Chen Yuyan proudly and said, accept it. Then, everything in the Ashford family is yours. Veronica virus, Antarctic base, this whole world. And, I. Chen Yuyan looked at Alexia. She was tall and slender, and her height was about 1.60 meters by visual inspection. You know, according to the data, she was born in 1971, and then frozen herself when she was 13 years old. In other words, her current physical age is only 13 years old. In the future, the figure of a model who will grow to about 1.75 meters will not be a problem at all. In addition to her glamorous face, snow-white skin, soft blonde hair, and her innate noble temperament, plus the fact that she can graduate from Cambridge University with A and in all subjects at the age of 10, super brain, no matter from which point of view, is the most perfect woman. If we also add her profound and prominent family background and the billions of assets of at least 1/3 of Umbrella's shares, my God, this is nothing to say. Totally impeccable. Apparently Alexia thought so too. She looked at Chen Yuyan with a smile on her face, obviously never thought that he would refuse in her heart. Her cherry lips parted slightly, and she said in what she thought was the most gentle tone, then, may I know your name? My future husband. Chen Yuyan, this is my name. When Chen Yuyan answered, she glanced 4 times, as expected, her expression was extremely gloomy now. The originally very fair complexion is now even whiter, like a piece of paper. Alexia smiled decently, Chen Yuyan. It's the name of the Yan kingdom, and your habit is to put the surname first. So, are you ready to accept it? Accept the glory of the Ashford family, accept my, Alexia, your future wife. Then, you will have a glorious name, Yan Ashford. And this surname will become the supreme existence on the entire planet. It will be the ruler of this planet. The expression on Chen Yuyan's face still didn't fluctuate at all. He still just looked at the Alexei who stood in front of him. Although she looked like a 13-year-old girl with relatively precocious development, she spoke in a very mature tone. Yeah. He asked Lin Huo about the plot in Resident Evil before, and mentioned to him that Hank found out that there was a battle in Antarctica. Lin Huo told him very seriously at the time that in the world of Resident Evil, there has never been a shortage of geniuses: James Marcus who created the T-virus, William Birkin who created the G-virus, and the creator of the C-virus Carlo Radames. These are all super geniuses born in the world, and everyone's knowledge has the ability to completely change the world. But in the entire Resident Evil, there is one person who can truly surpass these geniuses. That is the beautiful girl in front of her eyes, Alexia Ashford. In 1983, at the age of 13, she successfully mixed the T-virus with the ancient ant queen and a special plant DNA to create the T Veronica virus. And this virus was always the most stable and systematic one among the T-series viruses before Carlo Radames' C virus appeared. Don't think that Carlo Radames can surpass Alexia because of this. In fact, the reason why Carlo Radames was able to create the C virus was also based on the T Veronica virus. Moreover, when the C virus came out, it was already 2012-29 years after the T Veronica virus was created. Again, Alexia, who did all this, was 13 years old. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 220. 219 Get it yourself. Chen Yuyan laughed brightly. That's right, Alexia Ashford. You have the wisdom of a genius, the appearance of a goddess, and the background of an aristocrat. As long as I gently with a nod, all of this will be under my control, and I will become the only man in this world who can possess you and touch you. What reason can I refuse? A smile appeared on the corner of Alexia's mouth. She was excited from the bottom of her heart. Only she can feel this. After her perfect fusion with the T Veronica virus, she also has an almost supernatural perception. Standing in front of Chen Yuyan, she immediately felt the incomparably powerful power contained in his body. Only such a person is worthy of himself. Only such a person is worthy of the Ashford family. Chen Yuyan scratched his head over there. What's the reason? He turned his head and met his four eyes and asked, You help me think about it. Get out. The four eyes returned to him with a single word. What are you doing? My future husband. Seeing Chen Yuyan scratching his ears and cheeks, Alexia was a little displeased, and she asked in a deep voice. The phrase future husband is both a confession and a warning. Ah! I thought of it. Chen Yuyan slapped his fist, and suddenly understood. He turned to Alexia with a really big smile. In fact, Chen Yuyan's appearance is very handsome, coupled with his well-proportioned muscles that are full of explosive power and not clumsy like those gym bullies. It is indeed his capital that is enough to attract many women. His smile made Alexia's eyes a little blurred. However, Chen Yuyan said heartlessly, Well, are you going to change my name to Yan Ashford? This name is too ugly. So I refuse all your requests. Alexia was also startled immediately. She opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say for a moment. Okay. Chen Yuyan laughed loudly, stepped on a big rock next to him, pointed at Alexia's nose and said, Beauty. Are you the boss here? Be sensible and tell T hand over the data of the Veronica virus, or I will beat you. Alexia's complexion changed, but she still forced a smile. I can think you were joking just now, my future husband. I'm a bit stubborn. I only get what I want by myself. I don't care about food or anything. Chen Yuyan sneered. I've said it long ago. He is a vulgar and rude savage. Such a bastard will never be worthy of you. My beautiful sister. Alfred Ashford shouted from behind. What do you want me to do to agree? Alexia's tone became cold. Well, pull yourself naked and beg me on your knees. When Chen Yuyan spoke, his eyes were fixed on Alexia, and the smile on the corner of his mouth gradually became ferocious. Alexia closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened her eyes again, a strange halo appeared in those beautiful pupils. Indeed, you can't be my husband yet. I need to teach you a lot about etiquette as a noble. She spread her hands, only to see two groups of flames appearing out of thin air in her palms. The pair of silk white gloves she was wearing immediately began to burn, and the flames spread to her in no time. The precious purple classical long dress also started to burn, and Alexia's whole body was wrapped in flames. The temperature of the flame was so high that the clothes on her body were burned to ashes almost instantly. Only a red gem set in her necklace survived the heat and fell to the ground. Just when Chen attention was attracted by the flames, suddenly a figure rushed straight from the flames and punched him. Chen reacted instantly and raised his hand to block it. Boom! He only felt an incomparably huge force coming. His body weight was far from being able to support under the attack of this force, and he was blown away in an instant. Bang! Chen crashed into a nearby laboratory and smashed a large piece of the experimental equipment inside. Now Alexia's appearance has been greatly changed, her whole body's skin has turned blue, and fine scales have grown in some places. Although the long skirt had been burned by the flames, countless vine-like substances grew out of her body, covering important parts of her body like armor. The soft blonde hair has also disappeared, replaced by pieces of cyan petal-shaped tentacles, covering the head like short hair. In this way, she looks no longer the noble and elegant appearance before. On the contrary, she seems to be a heroic biochemical mutant warrior. In the next second, the wall of the laboratory exploded with a bang. Chen shot out like lightning, and a faint green light flashed in his eyes. Boom! Chen and Alexia's fists collided fiercely. Under the impact of huge force, a wave of air spread instantly, and the surrounding dust instantly flew towards the surroundings. Suddenly a flame ignited from Alexia's hand, and Chen quickly let go to avoid it, and jumped back to distance himself, but the high temperature of the flame still left a scorched black mark on his hand. Yes. This is what I'm longing for. Alexia's voice became a little lower in the transformed state. This powerful force. If we combine, it will be the combination of the strongest in the world. Chen curled his lips and smiled. Look at your appearance, I don't like it at all. As soon as the words fell, Alexia raised his hand, and a wall of fire several meters high spread from Chen feet in an instant, and he quickly rolled to avoid it. But before he got up, Alexia had already stepped in front of him. It took only a blink of an eye to reach a distance of nearly 10 meters. Boom! Chen was beaten out again. Alexia's strength was no less than his. This punch even made him spit out a mouthful of blood. He got up from the ground, wiped the corner of his mouth, looked at the blood on his palm, and said to himself, "It's been a long time since I've been beaten like this. Are you still looking at us with the eyes of the world? You are no longer human." "I know this very well," Alexia said. "We are stronger, more perfect creatures. Human skin is just a burden, that's all." Chen stood up, and spat out a mouthful of bloody phlegm to the side in disdain. "It's the first time I've heard someone swearing so confidently. This is a sincere compliment, my future husband." Alexia approached step by step with an extremely strong sense of oppression. Chen eyes froze, he squatted slightly, powerful strength began to gather, and then he kicked hard on the ground. The concrete floor exploded in an instant, and he rushed towards Alexia under the huge reaction force. Alexia opened her hand slightly, the skin on the palm split by itself, the bright red blood flowed out slowly, and immediately burned violently when it encountered air. With a wave of her hand, a scorching fireball hit her head on.